Ready to take your favorite WagerTalk handicappers wherever you travel this football season? The WagerTalk TV app is now live for phones, tablets, smart TVs, and streaming platforms. Tune into your favorite shows like WagerTalk Today, Bet on It, and the Opening Line Report. Plus, browse through our extensive library of sports betting tips. Create your personal playlist of betting tip videos to help you prepare for the upcoming season, and set notifications to alert you when new content is added. Download the app for Apple, Android, Amazon, and Roku devices by searching for WagerTalk TV, or scan the QR code on your screen to join the winning conversation today.
Hey guys, welcome in on a very, happy almost end of September 2022. It is week 5 in the college football world, and we've got 3 games that we want to break down for you here today. We're going to take a look at, 3 pretty good games, in fact, with 3 of the very best at Wager Talk as we welcome in. There he is, the Adam Trigger in the house. Drew Martin here, only his 83rd show today at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And Steve Merril, 2 R's, 1 L. Gentlemen, we are in full swing here in football season here, both NFL and college. But week 5, it's been interesting these first 4 weeks. And Drew, let me come to you. We used to do this with the basketball show, the college basketball show every time here. I mean, 4 weeks in, any trends, anything that you've taken away that really stands out to you thus far across the college football landscape?
In terms of the opening of college football, I guess a couple things. One, I actually might even rewind like a year, Joe, to your question and say, like, this week in particular, with Hurricane Ian heading up into, Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina, watch out for this weather stuff, guys. Not only totals wise, which have all been like smacked, at least 7-10 to the under, because, hey, when you get rain and wind, it really affects gameplay. So something to watch out there as in a lot of those games that actually I went on over and under the radar show here on the Wager Talk YouTube channel. Check it out, going over the weather in a lot of these cases. So that's the kind of thing I would point towards in this week, Joe. And the games we're actually going to talk about, maybe one of them will be affected, plus an all SEC show. So I appreciate you or Chris Allen putting that together, man. Happy to get into these games with you guys.
Yeah, no, awesome stuff, man. It's guys, make sure you check out all of the content here. Not only Drew Martin, but Steve, he'll tell you about some of the great videos and content he puts out, both NFL and college football. And Trig, you two are on just about 9,000 shows here, from The Hustle to Wager Talk Today. You are everywhere. First Pitch, I mean, baseball's winding down, but college basketball just around the corner. What have you taken away, if anything, here in the college football season through the first month?
Well, Joe, I don't have numbers to back this up. This is more of an observation. The first thing is I've had really good luck, and I think it goes past just the games I've bet. The kind of like the underdogs in like the 10 to maybe, let's call it like 17-point range have been really good. When you get past that, the big favorites have just been blowing teams off, like just destroying teams. And I don't know if that has anything to do with like maybe the bottom of the college football is really bad this year or what, but the big favorites seem to just smash every week. And the teams like last week, I had Kansas State, I had UTEP, both outright winners. I didn't play the money line, I just took the points. But those teams seem to be winning games or even in it every week from, I can go back 3-4 weeks to, double-digit dogs that I've had cash pretty easily. So that's just an observation. Like I said, I don't have numbers to back it up, but it's just something I've noticed.
Yeah, no, and I'm with you there. There does seem to be certainly a bigger distance between the elites and, the bad teams are really bad. You hear me, Utah State? Steve Merril, what's going on, my man? Tell the folks about, of course, what's happening with the content that they can get on demand by downloading the new WagerTalk app, of course, smartphones, smart TVs. Your videos very, very popular on the site. And what, if anything, have you pulled down here in the first 4 weeks of college football?
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned Utah State because one of the first best bet winners we had this season was Alabama minus 41 against Utah State, 55-0. And the point being, I'm not afraid to lay big numbers in September. We've talked about it because there is a big difference between the haves and the have-nots. You know, in the NFL, even the worst team can beat the best team on any given Sunday, right? Because they're all pro athletes, they're all college all-stars. Not the case in college. And to that note, I think you have to be very careful to look for teams all of a sudden start fixing things 2 or 3 weeks, 4 weeks into September. We're still in September. It'll be October 1st on Saturday. Once you get into mid-October, like 5, 6, 7 weeks into the season, then you can start being more of a contrarian in both the NFL and college football. But right now in September, the trend is your friend, and teams that are struggling are going to continue to struggle until we see them fix their problems. By the way, I will have my college football top 25 video on Friday night. This is the first time all year that we have 5 top 25 head-to-head matchups, so tons of info in that video. And the NFL Fade the Public video off to a 10-3 start the first 3 weeks. And guess what? Tonight's game is very public. First time ever, a Thursday night special edition Fade the Public for Dolphins-Bengals. So everyone's watching this live right now and replay right after. Don't miss that before the game kicks off tonight on Thursday right here on WagerTalk TV.
All right, good stuff here, guys. Again, you can visit Adam Trigger, Drew Martin, Steve Merril at WagerTalk.com. You can also get the latest up-to-date odds. What is the market doing? Never guess, guys. Make sure you're getting the best in the number. Check out the free live odds page at WagerTalk.com. All right, let's kick it off here with an SEC battle as Ole Miss going to be taking on Kentucky. Some folks were a little worried maybe Kentucky last week. A little bit of a peek ahead spot maybe for the start of SEC play, but Ole Miss opens up as a 7-point favorite here at home. 54 is the total. Now, Drew, if you were a betting man, how much would you be willing to bet that Ole Miss and our good friend, what was it, Joey Chestnut there when he was here at FAU? What do you think we're going to get from them after a lackluster performance last week against Tulsa?
Yeah, Joe, I actually both teams went off of lackluster, like you alluded to. And I do think it was a little bit of look ahead here. I mean, for this matchup, first off, great matchup from a fan kicking us off on Saturday, early kick local time, 11 a.m. in Oxford, Mississippi. Stoops versus Kiffin. Great coaching matchup. Looks like running back Chris Rodriguez slated to return this week for Kentucky, one of their best players. And this is a Kentucky team that looked good just a couple weeks ago going into the Swamp, coming out with the straight up and ATS win there, knocking off the Gators. We get Ole Miss here. Yes, they're 4-0. However, they're just 1-3 against the spread. They haven't really been covering numbers. We're asking them to lay again. I don't know. They really haven't played, a top 80 team all season? Maybe, Tulsa, decent squad. But outside of that, nobody really on their schedule here. And asking them to lay a full touchdown, I don't like that at all. Give me the dog here. Sprinkle a little bit on the money line as well. Give me the Wildcats. I think they go into Oxford and win outright, Joe.
All right, liking Kentucky to get it done on the road. Joey Freshwater, by the way, was Kiffin's.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that was his Tinder name when he was here in Boca Raton. Hanging out at Club Boca. That was his name there that he used online. So the stories were hilarious with Kiffin. Oh, yeah. Talk to me here, Trig. What do you think? Are you a backer or a believer, really, in what Stoops is doing here with this Kentucky team?
Well, Joe, I'm a believer to an extent, but as far as as far as this game is concerned, I know the move for Ole Miss up was sharp, and I know that sharp groups hit this anytime it has gotten back to 6.5. They've hit it at 6.5. So that's enough to put me off of the side here because I do kind of lean Kentucky. My personal sort of handicap in this game kind of leans me toward Kentucky with the points because I don't think Ole Miss has done enough to be a 7-point favorite yet. Like, they really haven't played anyone. And there's been instances where they haven't played particularly well. last week they were a little sluggish. You go back to, I think it was Troy the first week where they kind of just, barely covered whatever, kind of went through the motions. So, but because of that, because I am kind of weary of the sharp money that has, I know for a fact is sharp on Ole Miss, I'm going to look to the total. And I think this could be a low scoring game. Obviously, you've got Chris Rodriguez back for Kentucky. You'd be shocked if they don't try to run the ball. And, Kentucky's been pretty solid defensively. And I think they're going to be able to stop the run enough to force Jackson Dart to make plays. And he really hasn't done that consistently enough for me this year. He's been erratic throwing the ball. And his pass for the teams Ole Miss has played, Joe, his number should be way better, in my opinion. I think that's a red flag there when it comes to Dart. So that's not really a guy I want to be laying 7 points with right now. So tough on the spread is tough. I'm going to respect that money that continues to come in at 6.5. But I do think that this could be a game where we see a lot of running and, longer sustained drives. I like the way Levis is playing for Kentucky. And good enough defense to keep this one under the number. So I'll throw out a lean on this one to under. I think it's 54. I think this is going to be a tight game.
Yeah, it's interesting too. I'll have to look at the total in this one, Merril. But running certainly could be a theme here. But I don't know. Can Kentucky win without just having success running the ball against Ole Miss and Kiffin, or are they going to have to pass maybe a lot in this game to get it done?
Oh, yeah. If you tell me right now this game's going to be decided by the running game, we will load up with that sharp money on Ole Miss because they have a substantial edge. And 281 rushing yards a game, 5.8 yards per carry. Kentucky, 92 rushing yards per game, 2.8. So Ole Miss is going to win the line of scrimmage rushing battle. And if this was the 1990s still, I'd be all over them as a strong best bet because that used to work like a gem in college football. Now it's a different game now. It's more of a pass-heavy attack. And that's why Kentucky's a good team because they throw the ball extremely well. As bad as they run it, they throw it much, much better. 10 yards per pass. What's interesting, though, is Ole Miss's defensive strength, at least so far this season, against a pretty weak schedule, has been the pass defense. They've been very average against the run. Pass defense has been fantastic. Kentucky's pass defense, by the way, has been very strong as well. So both teams defending the pass, you could make a case for the under in that regard. Schedule has been weak for both these teams, but Kentucky did go down to Florida in week 2 and have a nice win as a 6-point dog, holding the Gators to just 16 points. The only game in which Ole Miss hasn't been at least a 3-touchdown favorite was a 17-point favorite at Georgia Tech, 42-0. So they have not been tested. So that's the concern with Ole Miss here is that they're stepping up in class big time. Kentucky's already played a good opponent. With that said, my power ratings favor Ole Miss by 7.5 points. As Adam mentioned, that's one of the reasons the early money came in on Ole Miss. That line at 5.5 was too low. It's funny that he said it's hovering at 7 because I make it 7.5. At 7.5 or more, you could start getting on Kentucky. At 7 or less, it's still Ole Miss, and that's where it sits right now. But substantial edge of the line of scrimmage, at least from a rushing perspective, and I think that's why we've seen some money coming to Ole Miss.
All right, there it is, guys. SEC battle here starting off at noon. Getting ready to kick it off between Ole Miss and Kentucky. And, well, hell, why don't we just keep it in the SEC and let's move over to Drew's favorite, Auburn taking on the Tigers here. And we've got, a opening number of 8 there for Brian Kelly and company, 46. And, man, I still don't know how Auburn ended up winning that game last. Well, actually, I do. Fumble, Drew, fumble. Even the most ardent of Auburn fans are probably like, oh, man, rather be lucky than good, Drew. But does that luck run out for your Auburn Tigers here?
Oh, interesting matchup, Joe. And, I do want to say you said Joey Chestnut last time, and it kind of threw me off with the hot dogs.
Yes.
But, yes, Joey Freshwater. Guys out there, if you need some side reading, just Google Joey Freshwater. It's like Lane Kiffin's, I guess his name he goes by online, and it's one of the best stories out. Well, not the best, but it's a very interesting, funny story. Speaking of college football head coaches that are married getting caught with their hand in the cookie jar, nice segue here to Brian Harsin and the Auburn Tigers. Holding on to his job, again, beating Missouri like you brought up there, Joe. But this Auburn team, just something's wrong, Joe. I mean, I don't know if it's talent, if it's just scheme. They don't have good enough quarterback play, in my opinion, to kind of overcome their weaknesses. I'm really worried about it. I know they're 3-1 straight up. However, against the spread, 0-4. They've been an absolute money burner. Now going up against LSU, which lost that first game against Florida State, which unfortunately I bet LSU, but it's gone on a little bit of a run here. And a lot of times we'll see that in college football. Week 1, prime time game, a lot of eyeballs, you don't look good. Well, under the radar the next couple weeks, sure enough, they've been a money maker. Brian Kelly, you got to give the nod to him in terms of X's and O's, the better coach here. Plus the fact their wide receiver, Butte, I believe that's how you pronounce it. He should be back here. Jalen Daniels, a little bit of a worry here. He left the New Mexico game last week with back issues, did return, but it's something to watch here. When a guy has abdominal or back issues at the quarterback position, I tend to, really pay attention to something like that. Plus the fact LSU having to lay 8 points on the road, primetime game at night. This is a tough place to play, Jordan-Hare Stadium. I think it's going to be a raucous atmosphere. It's just too much for me, Joe, to be on LSU, but at the same time, can't bet on my Auburn Tigers. They just don't look good. So this is a pass for me sidewise. I would lean under though.
It's maybe that's the way to go here. Merril, your numbers here in this one, it certainly does. It does feel a little over the top, this line here, given what we know about LSU so far and the questions regarding Jane Daniels, but Finley and company certainly haven't exactly lit them up for Auburn. So what do you do here in this game? What are your numbers showing?
Well, first of all, Drew Martin guaranteed me that the Tigers were going to win this game, but then I realized he didn't tell me which Tigers to bet on, so that didn't do much good. And this was 30 years ago before overtime. There could be a tie, and I still think the Auburn Tigers might be able to find a way to make sure the Tigers don't win this game and tie somehow. I mean, that's how bad the offense has been recently. It's always a red flag when a team doesn't score the point spread. I talk about that a lot. Back in week 2, keep in mind that Auburn was a 24-point home favorite against San Jose State, and they only won 24-16. And that was definitely a sign something was not right with the offense. They've come back the last 2 weeks. They've put up just 12 and 17 points total against Penn State and Missouri. Auburn is 3-1 straight up. Both teams are 3-1 straight up, but Auburn is 0-4 against the spread. They've been the biggest money burner in college football. And with the coach on the hot seat, it's hard to imagine the alumni are going to support him much because they've been losing tickets left and right back in their Auburn Tigers. LSU, meanwhile, is also 3-1, but they're 3-1 against the spread. And more importantly, they're a perfect 3-0 straight up in ATS the last 3 weeks after that tough 1-point loss against Florida State to start the season on Labor Day. And a lot of times those type of losses can linger. That hasn't been the case. They came out and they smoked a bad Southern team, but they've looked good against Mississippi State, obviously winning outright as a 3-point dog. I did have a strong best bet for my clients in that game at WagerTalk.com. And then 38-0 against New Mexico. They did what they had to last week against a bad team. My power ratings favor LSU by 9.2 in this game, so a little over 9 points. So that early line from move from 7 to 8 makes sense in that regard. But Drew and I talked about this on every game on the board. We get a sneaking feeling that this is like the do or die game for Auburn. They're kind of a cornered animal, state, and they're wounded. So I don't like to bet against teams in that situation. So a little bit of line value in LSU, but probably a game I won't be involved in.
What do you think here, Trig? Still trying to get my head wrapped around on what kind of team did Brian Kelly get here, and what, if any, can he do with them to kind of elevate them? Or is this team what we're going to get here pretty much for the rest of the season? Because, I don't know, it's a big ask to go on the road in the SEC and be able to win by margin here. What do you think?
Well, that's, I guess, the point I was going to make, Joe, is, to back a team laying this number on the road in a game like this, everything needs to all the boxes need to be checked.
Yeah.
And that doesn't happen here for me. First of all, this actually could be a game that does see some of that weather. And if that's the case, I certainly don't want to be laying 8.5, 9 points with a team that has a quarterback that left the game last week that could be compromised here. I mean, I expect that Jaden Daniels will play, but it's a back injury. So it's something to at least, consider. And Auburn, if it does turn into, if the weather does play a factor and specifically the wind. It looks like they're going to get some rain, but if the wind is enough to disrupt the passing game, Auburn tends to do well in low-scoring games that are like predicated on the run. So I certainly wouldn't want LSU if that was the case either. And Joe, Auburn's kind of like they're like a car accident victim that had a near-death experience and just walked out unscathed. Like I think there's a point to be made there because they were supposed to lose last week. Mm-hmm. Like for at least that split second where Missouri is going into the end zone, that was a loss that basically became a win. And, that's got to be it's almost like they've got a new lease on life a little bit here, because if he doesn't fumble that ball, Brian Harsin might not be the coach right now. And the fact of the matter is, at this point, like Auburn's got a win last week in a game that they really probably should have lost. And that to me, that could give them a little boost. Like that could be a little bit of a confidence boost. And all of that, Joe, is going to take me off of wanting any part of laying this number on the road. So that's the only thing I could do here is take the points with Auburn. I don't know if I want to. And that's the beauty of the fact that we've got all these games to bet. You don't have to bet every game, but if I had to bet this one, I'd have to kind of reluctantly take the points.
0-4 ATS is what Auburn is so far this year. And by the way, they've missed the cover by an average of just about 13 points a game. So it's not even close at this point. But hey, LSU, big ask on the road. I saw this thing open up at 6. It's been pushed up now. So I think maybe Trig's got a point here, man. You don't have to bet every game, guys. That's the beauty of it. But maybe you'll want to bet this next one, which I think is also pretty interesting here when the Hogs, Arkansas, taking on Alabama in this one. 61 is the opening number, 16 and a half, 17 for Alabama here. I guess no surprise that Alabama is, the favorite and taking the money here, but they have struggled, Drew. And you notice Bama has struggled on the road over the last couple of years, especially with these big numbers. Do you anticipate they struggle again in this one?
I do, Joe. Big number here for Alabama. And you're right. I mean, the last couple years, they've been a great fade going on the road, particularly in hostile environments, which you can really point to here in Arkansas on Saturday, 3:30 CBS, kind of the marquee game here. Getting plus 600 on Arkansas for the money line, plus 17.5 available out there as well. I mean, let's face it. If that 99-yard scoop and score against Texas A&M doesn't happen, almost a 14-point swing that the Aggies got over the Razorbacks in that game, and Arkansas is undefeated coming into this game, this line isn't anywhere near 17.5. It's probably college game day, the whole bit, and it's probably a lot closer to 10. Who knows? But 61 being the total, 7-point game last time out, just a touchdown in a different, in Tuscaloosa. KJ Jefferson, I think this Razorbacks team is underrated. I really do. Plus the fact they have the type of offense when you're betting a big dog, if Alabama's up 20, 25 points and, Arkansas has the ball in the fourth quarter, it's one of those where you could really, that back door be open with Arkansas as well. So I think we have a lot more arrows on our side with the Razorbacks here, Joe. And for my best bet for the show as well in this last game, I like Arkansas, the Razorbacks, plus 17.5.
Yeah, I mean, listen, it's 4 of the last 5 true road games for Bama, Merrill, have not been great at all. But there is a big but here because we're talking about Nick Saban in Alabama. Saban's teams, 20-11 ATS as a road favorite of 14 or more since he jumped into the SEC in Alabama. So what do you think? Are you backing Saban to get it done, or is it just way too many points for you?
Yeah, I mean, you and Adam both had a great point. The one beauty, the one edge you have as a sports bettor is that odds makers have to put a line on every game, right? And we only have to pick 4 or 5 of those 50 games, where we find value. But the beauty of a show like this also is we're getting 3 or 4 of us all chiming in with different thoughts and aspects. And I love doing a lot of media. done 6 shows here in the last 3 hours today on Thursday for baseball, football, everything. And one of them was ESPN Radio in the Tennessee Valley area with Tom Abraham. He covers Alabama really closely. And I told him I'd cite him when I mentioned it on the college football kickoff show on WagerTalk.com. He thinks one of the reasons Alabama has been weaker on the road, especially the last couple of years, is because they give Bryce Young the ability to check at the line of scrimmage. He has a lot of responsibility, more so than most quarterbacks. Last week against Vanderbilt, they were really laying off. He can check to the line, little dunk passes. It would make sense if that's the case. And on the road, Alabama in a hostile, loud environments might have more trouble, especially when you're talking about 18, 19, 20-year-old kids who are pretty inexperienced. So keep an eye on that this week. Let's see if there's something to that. Obviously, they, as Drew said, barely got by the Texas game. We all know that could have gone either way. They were a 21-point favorite. They only won by 1. My concern with Arkansas, though, is a possible flat spot. I know this is a huge game for them, but it's still hard to have your A game every week. In a back-and-forth 23-21 narrow loss like last week against A&M, and that was a neutral field in Irvington. It was a big game for both teams. That kind of loss can linger sometimes. And my power ratings actually do make this line a little bit higher. Favors Alabama by 21 in this game. Current line is right around 17. So at 17 or less, there is some line value, in my opinion, on Alabama. But I am concerned about them on the road. They did not look good against Texas. They've smoked the 3 bad teams at home. And, if checking at the line of scrimmage is a concern, it's going to be a hostile environment on Saturday.
Yeah, it's going to be a real hostile environment. We know that. Saban knows that, Trig. The thing that worries me the most about Arkansas is that secondary, because it's not great. They lost their All-American, I believe it was Jalen Catalon earlier this year. He was kind of the quarterback back there for that secondary. They haven't looked good against subpar passing teams. What is Young going to look like here? Are you willing to lay it, though, with Bam? You have enough faith in him?
No, I like Arkansas here. We'll start with that. Listen, when you're going to back a team getting 17 and a half points, you're going to have to give something somewhere, right? Like if the matchup was just so good for you that they probably wouldn't be a 17-point dog. And I guess I'm willing to kind of trade the fact that Arkansas secondary isn't great for their pass rush, which is really great. And I'm willing to roll the dice that they can get home a couple times on Young, make him make, kind of difficult decisions and, do enough to keep Arkansas in this game. The other side of the ball, you look at Alabama and they struggled with, Quinn Ewers, who had a pretty good game for Texas in a game that Alabama kind of, just escaped 20-19. And I wonder if that's a little foreshadowing here as they try to deal with KJ Jefferson, who I think is a tremendous player. And he played great in this matchup last year, kept Arkansas in the game. It ended up being a 7-point final, which kind of goes back to what Drew said. And I very much agree with him. I think Arkansas does a lot of things well to the point where I kind of make that the 21-point sort of line that Steve makes it that he referenced. I would kind of call that the ceiling here, Joe. I think a 3-score win is the ceiling for Alabama in this game. So with that being said, obviously it could land 21 and we could lose. But I just think there's value on Arkansas, especially if you can get 17 and a half. Last 2 years as a 2-touchdown favorite on the road or more, Alabama is 1-4 against the spread in those games. And a great point that Drew made, and I'll fully admit this. I was on Texas A&M money line last week, -125. Got very lucky in that game. They were not the better team in that game, not even by a little bit. Arkansas doesn't fumble at the goal line. They're going they're probably going up 21-0. They're probably winning that game. And this is we're probably looking at like a 14 and a half or 15. So I think Arkansas can stay in this game. As I said at the top of the show, I've had really good luck this year. They've all been cashing with these 10 to 17 point dogs. This is right in the sweet spot. I think Arkansas is the right side here. I like them to cover this number.
All right, taking the points here with Arkansas. Should be a great weekend in the SEC, but now it is time to figure out if there is a game on this card that these guys may like a little bit more than the rest. But a quick reminder here, guys, those best bets of theirs locked and loaded, ready to go here at WagerTalk.com. visit Drew Martin, visit Adam Trigger, visit Steve Merril right now. Get to their pages, guys. And, of course, take a look at this great deal right now offered where every play from now through the end of the year for just a little bit less than $7 a day, guys. Take advantage of it. You never got to worry about what plays or what games are they looking at. You get them delivered to you immediately. And, of course, that means getting the best of the number. So no coupon code needed. Just visit their pages now at WagerTalk.com and take advantage of that all-access package. Good through the end of the year for Merril and for Adam Trigger and for Drew Martin. And Merril, we'll start with you here. Why don't you kick us off and tell us which way you looking here? Is a game you got you like maybe a little bit more than the rest here?
Yeah, I'm going to skip outside the SEC conference with the 3 games we talked about and look at a free play in the ACC here in just a moment. A game that actually might be a best bet for me this weekend once I get a little bit more information heading into Saturday. Get that to you free in just a moment. Quick reminder, this is the time of year to be playing all sports. Look, we've got college and pro football. We've got Major League Baseball. We all know that. But don't forget, NBA starts in a couple weeks. College basketball starts in about a month. Baseball playoffs a week away. NHL as well, hockey. I mean, October is the only month of the year which every major sport is going on in the same month. So what a great time to take advantage of that all-sports special at WagerTalk.com. Get every play every day for the rest of the year for less than $7 per day. If you thought $9 Monday was a good deal, everyone gets excited for that. You can make it $7 Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, the rest of the year, every day, $7. No promo code needed. Check it out on my page right now, Steve Merril, WagerTalk.com. NFL an 11-3, 79% run the past 3 weeks. All sports 23-11, college and pro football and baseball. So it's a great time to get all sports for $7 a day. College football top 25 video Friday night. NFL Fade the Public Saturday here for the weekend. But I have a special Thursday night edition up right now for Thursday Night Football, Dolphins, Bengals. Check that out here on WagerTalk TV. And download that app if you're on the move. WagerTalk TV app on your favorite devices. Game I'm looking at for Saturday. Free play in college football at 12:30 Eastern this Saturday. Let's take a look at Florida State at -7 or less. We get some line value, first of all. My power ratings favor the Seminoles by 8.5 points. This will be a game, by the way, I'm talking about in my college football top 25 video on Friday night. And I do like Florida State here. Might even make the best bet card. Like to look a little bit more detail to make sure this hurricane isn't distracting the team too much. I know it's not really supposed to hit Tallahassee that bad, but you never know, what kind of preparation's been lost this week if they've been worrying about it. With that said, the only way to play this game, in my opinion, is not necessarily on Florida State, but against Wake Forest. It's a huge flat spot for the Demon Deacons. If you had told me last week Wake was going to score 45 points, put up over 440 yards against Clemson, we would have backed the truck up for the money line bet. Luckily, we didn't do that. They still covered the point spread plus 7.5, but they lost outright 51-45, double OT. That's the type of loss that can linger. And Florida State, on top of it, it's a very good team this year, 4-0 straight up, 3-1 ATS. Florida State Seminoles, especially at -7 or less, have some value on Saturday.
Yeah, there you go. Not any worries either, I don't believe, for the Tallahassee area. So maybe should not be an issue as far as field conditions and those types of things for that Florida State and Wake Forest game. Drew Martin, come on. I know you ain't going Auburn. So come on, man. Where are you going here for a best bet? Or are you?
Oh, you know what? I don't know. Hearing Trig and Merril talk about Auburn, you yourself, Joe. I mean, like the cornered animal, it almost makes me want to, but no, I'm not going to get there. Not going to get there in the battle of Tigers, but War Eagle all the way. I'm actually going to go Woo Pig Suey, Arkansas plus 17.5, guys. Shop around for it. Put that hook on the 17. Sprinkle a little bit plus 600 as well, as the dog might be barking here. Alabama, I think there's something to the last 2 years, them struggling on the road. Steve Merril actually touched on it, very a sharp look there in terms of struggling at the line on the road. I think there is something to that. And then bring up again the 99-yard scoop and score. A lot different outcome against Texas A&M if that doesn't happen. Trig touched on that. And I think this would be a lot different point spread if that didn't happen. So 17.5, I think the value's on Arkansas. And sprinkle a little bit on the money line with the Razorbacks, Joe.
All right, like an Arkansas to get it done there. Maybe even, hey, outright victory wouldn't shock any of us here. The craziness has begun there, Trig. So, which game on the card are you looking at, Trig? You like a little more than the rest?
With Drew, I like the Arkansas Razorbacks. We've kind of talked about it, all show long. So I'll just throw a couple other reasons why I think this is a good bet. Alabama, this kind of starts off a gauntlet for them of sorts. They've got Texas A&M and Tennessee coming up the next 2 weeks, with that Texas A&M game being at home. And Joe, if you remember last year, that was a big upset. Texas A&M beating Alabama last year. So maybe they, I don't know if they look ahead, but it's certainly worth pointing out that they have multiple big games coming up after this game. The other thing is I really feel like the Texas game might be a little bit of foreshadowing here. Alabama escapes 20-19, and their secondary has not, the only real test they've had is Ewers. And now they're going to have KJ Jefferson here, who will be the stiffest test by far, in my opinion, that they faced this season. I just think Arkansas has enough weapons. I like the pass rush. I'm willing to take my chances that Young isn't able to just light this defense up. And if he does, I think Arkansas can score enough to maybe come right in through the back door. So I'll take the 17.5, Joe. I like the Razorbacks here. I think they find a way to stay within the number.
All right. Razorbacks it is here, guys. Take a look there. Drew Martin says, old Pig Suey, get it there with the 17.5. Trig in 100% agreement, while Merril says, total flat spot there for might be just a bit let down there after the loss to Clemson, back Florida State at a touchdown or less. But like Merril had told you, if you visit his page at WagerTalk.com, or Adam's page or Drew's page, now would be the time to hop on, guys. Get these all-access packages, 3 days, 7 days, 30 days, and, of course, the special right now, the opportunity to get every play from now through the end of the year for just a little less than $7 a day. That is the way to do it. Visit their pages today at WagerTalk.com. All right, that'll do it here. We're getting ready to wrap up September. Hard to believe. October just around the corner. We'll be back again tomorrow, breaking down 3 more games before we head into the weekend. It's a big Friday night card, too, in college football. We'll take a look at some of those games, and let's see if we can't start it off on the right foot, make it a profitable Week 5 in college football. On behalf of Adam Trigger, Drew Martin, and Steve Merril, guys, we appreciate the time. Don't forget, download the app today on your smartphone or smart TV and make plans to come back and join us again tomorrow. Good luck with your plays tonight, guys. We'll talk to you again soon. Thanks.
Ready to take your favorite WagerTalk handicappers wherever you travel this football season? The WagerTalk TV app is now live for phones, tablets, smart TVs, and streaming platforms. Tune into your favorite shows like WagerTalk Today, Bet On It, and the Opening Line Report. Plus, browse through our extensive library of sports betting tips. Create your personal playlist of betting tip videos to help you prepare for the upcoming season, and set notifications to alert you when new content is added. Download the app for Apple, Android, Amazon, and Roku devices by searching for WagerTalk TV, or scan the QR code on your screen to join the winning conversation today.